Alright, so we've been buying the solar powered landscape lights, the ones you pay somewhere between $8 and $10 per light. They come in a 4-pack or something like that. You can buy them at any Lowe's or Home Depot or buy them off of Amazon. And what we found is they're okay when they're new, but they don't even last 1 year. They start to lose how long they'll last. So they'll get powered by the sun during the day, and then they're supposed to last several hours into the night, and they just don't keep up that rate. They might last several hours at the beginning, and then a few months later they're not lasting at all. So we had put in the landscape lights that we have now just 1 year ago, and they all do this too. This was the solar screen, and now look at it, it's like all white. You know, when you buy these new, they're all clear. You can see the solar lines in them, and they get to be like that because of the sun. The reason they're so popular is all you have to do is unbox them and stick the stake in the ground, and you're done. And so for, you know, we bought 16 of these, and that would have been like $120 or something like that. So the investment would seem reasonable if they would last. They just don't last. So that's the problem. And so what we're going to do today is we bought a 12 pack on Amazon. I'll put all the links in the description to everything. We bought the lights. They have a transformer that came with this set that I bought so that they run on low voltage, and then had to buy the wire separately. So I'll put some information in the video description about how to select your wire and things of that nature. And it's going to be a little bit more of an investment. So I think the light package themselves was right around $175 when I bought it. That included the transformer, so that's a pretty good deal. And then you have to buy your wire on top of that. So you're going to pay more initially for electric powered lights, but in the long run they should last several years. And I think if they lasted somewhere between around 2 to 3 year period is going to be the payback time on these kind of lights. Probably 2 years, but really it's better than that because the quality of them from the beginning is going to be superior. So I think that it's a good deal. I've never done a project like this, so we'll take you along with us. Let's get started. Alright, so we'll do an unboxing. Again, I'll put links to the description in the video description. This is a SunV brand outdoor landscaping lighting kit, low voltage. Comes with a transformer, 300 watt transformer. Has a nice control system. It's one of the reasons I went with this one. So there's our transformer in this box. Photocell sensor so it knows when to turn on and off automatically. Has a user manual. So you got a transformer there. So we'll have to read up on all this, figure that out. This is the transformer itself. On Amazon it looks to be high quality, had good reviews, that's why I went with it. And I wanted a lot of lights, so even though I have 16 now, I'm going down to 12. I'm not concerned about that because 12 is going to be plenty if it's putting out good light. I think these will be better, superior. So this is a cord, so you'll need an outlet close to where you're going to mount this, preferably on the outside of the house, because you want your photocell to work right. So you want it to be able to pick up the light and the darkness. And so it's got, you know, these are actual physical buttons, a menu, down, up, down, enter. So, you know, it looks to me like it's going to be easy to operate. So you can set your time and all that, but I would think on something like this, I would just want to go with the photocell, let it turn on and off automatically with the light. So I'm hoping that I don't really have to worry about the clock. So I've got an outlet I'll power it to, and then it's got this connection wire. So we'll find out more about that. Has this packet of tools in here with some wires and looks like this is designed possibly to plug in there, but I'm not going to do any of that until I kind of look into things, find out what all this is about. Got what looks like a mounting bracket to mount this. It's pretty heavy. This is a heavy object. It's got a little plastic mounted thing there that looks like it might just be for a cable or something, whereas this would probably be the mounting hardware for this. Yeah, so it's got this little indentation right here, so it looks to me like this piece of metal is probably going to be mounted to your wall surface, and then slide that on there like that. So you would mount this to your wall, and then you would slide this over the top of it so you could take it off if you needed to. So that looks to be pretty simple. I like that. So then the rest of the stuff in the box is going to be the lights and the stakes. These stakes are heavy duty. They're probably plastic, but they feel like metal. So they might actually be metal. I believe they're metal. And then we're gonna have a bunch of screws. These are low voltage fast lock connectors, and if I understand these right, they're going to allow us to connect the wires without having to splice wires. They're going to automatically kind of bite into the wire and make our connections for us. So this is one light. The lights look like this. They have their fastener here that they'll mount to the stake. Somehow we'll look at that later. And then you can pivot them on that mount, and then each one of them has a wire like this that will mount to our main wire that we're going to run, that you have to buy separately. So this is, you're going to get 12 of these with this one wire attached. You can tell these need to be mounted very close to the wire that's going to be in the ground. So that's what comes here. And then you can buy, it says either 12, 14, or 16 gauge wire. I went with the 16 because it's such low voltage and such a low amount of lights that one of the electricians I talked to told me that 16 gauge would be the best for this. So that's what I did. But it says you can use 12, 14, or 16 gauge wire. I'll put some more comments about that in the description. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out how to mount this to our wall. Alright, so we're going to use this location on the outside of our house. We have an outlet right here that we're going to plug our transformer into. We put our screws on the wall right here to mount this this metal bracket. So we used a masonry bit, since we have a brick house. Use a masonry bit to put the plastic anchors in, and then we're putting the screws into those anchors. They make one of the screws adjustable in one direction, one of them adjustable this direction, up and down. So this one is the one I would use to kind of make it level. So if it's crooked, I can adjust it. Okay, so we'll mount our transformer there and we'll plug it in here. Alright, so what I have here is some 16 gauge wire. You can use 12, 14, or 16 gauge. There's a little table inside the book that kind of lets you decide what you want to go with. This has 2 wires inside of it. 2 wires inside. You can see a black and a red. So what I need to do is, it tells me at the end to go down 2 inches. It tells me to separate the wire 2 inches. So what I want to try and do here is split the wire without cutting it. So hopefully I'll be alright. Just kind of depressing it and staying in the middle, trying to split my cover there. Kind of do it on both sides. I'm not typically working with electrical stuff like this, so I'm not an expert on this. Okay, there, I felt it go all the way through, whereas on the other side I didn't. So we successfully, let's see, yep, I'm good. Okay, so my wire is not exposed. This was just a cord that was inside of there. So my red wire is still shielded, black wire is still shielded, and then it wants us to splice a 1/2 inch. So this is a wire stripper. So on this side it's got the gauges. So this is a 16 gauge, so I'm going to put it right there. So that tells me where to apply this. Tells me to strip off, you know, about a 1/2 inch. So this is going to be my spot. I'm in the 16. I'm in the 16, so I'm going to squeeze, just kind of pull off like that, and then I'm going to take my wire, I'm going to twist it so it doesn't fray, so it stays straight. So now I'm going to do the same over here with the black one. I'm going to get it in my 16 mark here. Make sure I'm in the right one. I am. I'm going to squeeze. There we go. I'm going to twist it. And then what I'm going to do with this black plastic right here on the outside, I'm just going to cut it off where I split it so it's out of my way. So there, that's how we're gonna hook it up to this transformer right here. I'm gonna take my plastic cover off. It says common, 12 volt, 14 volt, and we're gonna go with the common and the 12 volt. So I'm gonna unscrew that. I'm gonna unscrew this. Okay, so we're just going to go in between the 2 metal plates. So I loosened that screw, so I'm going to slide the wire up in there like that. And now I'm going to tighten that screw down, so it's making good contact with that wire. I'm going to do the same with this one. Put the wire up in there. Loosen it up just a little bit more. Got plenty of room to go up in there. Just like that. Now I want to screw it down, tighten it. You don't want to over tighten, but these do need to be very snug. You don't want your wire to be able to get pulled out, so you don't need to over tighten, but everything is metal, so you're able to snug it down pretty confidently there. can pull on the wires and they're not going anywhere. So our wires are installed, and so as we run our wire to where our lights are going to go, they have these connectors that make us not have to splice our wire like we had to expose it right there for that. They make it where we don't have to do that for every light connection. So they have these right here, and how I was able to take the box cutter knife and just split in between the wires. That's what I have to do every time we get to a lighting location. We're going to use one of these that I was looking for, that has a picture of how that works right here. So I'm going to run this wire through my landscaping, burying it a couple inches, and then when I get to a place where I want a light, I'm going to take the cap off, these big caps right here. And you see how they have like a piercing pin? You might be able to see it with the white background. There's a metal piercing pin sticking up in the middle, in between the two black things. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna split the shield right here where the black and the red will still be shielded, and we'll run one of them through one side and one of them through the other side, and then we'll take our caps, so you have your wire sitting on top of that piercing, and then as you screw this down, it's going to pierce the wire, and that's going to give you a connection. So then when we come back and add these lights, then these lights are going to go on these little ones. The instructions want to straighten, you want to twist these so they're nice and clean. It's odd because you pass them right through the top, but it's like they're loose or something, but still attached. You're putting it down in there until it stops, and then you're screwing this down. And then that makes a positive connection. So this is different for me. Never seen one quite like this. So if you don't have enough room to manipulate, you can just pull it apart a little bit more. Go through the top, with the threads undone. Just push it down until it hits the bottom. And then you thread it. And that's twisting it. And then that's making the connection with this main wire that's supplying your power. And then this is allowing that power to get to your landscape light. So that's how we will end up doing that. I think I'm just going to leave this one on there so that I don't mess up those wires. If I have to, I'll undo it, but that one I think I'll just try to leave on there and install that way. The only other thing I'm wondering about is each light, has this bracket, and then you get all these stakes to mount these lights to. It looks to me like I might use a tool to take this off and then put it up through there and put the nut back in. So in these screws, in this package, so they have this in there, so I can take this, put it in there, and use it to tighten that down on the stake, So this is going to go wherever I want it. I have to run my main wire close enough where I can put this in the wiring. And so I think we'll just have to go get started and kind of figure it out as we go. All right, let's get started. All right, so at this point we have our transformer mounted to the wall. We're not going to plug it in until we're done, so there's no power coming out of the wiring, but we have our wire split, as you saw, plugged into the transformer. We mounted it on the wall of the house. We also went ahead and plugged in the photo cell, which we'll show you. Try to remember to point that out at the end. It just plugged in and mounted on the wall. That lets it know when to turn on and off based on the lighting in the area. So what we're doing now, before we get started running our wire through the landscape, is we're just doing a quick assembly of the 12 lights. So we're using an Allen wrench number 4 to loosen this up. When we videoed the first light, I believe I had the washer, I don't know if I showed that on video, I think I did, but I had it in the wrong spot. So they got this little tiny washer. So you're gonna wanna take that out and keep it with the screw, and then that's gonna go on top. So when you grab your light, this little visor is the top of the light, and so you're gonna wanna have your cord coming out above this, and then you're gonna put this screw in the middle hole with the washer on top, and then get it started. And if you have another person or somebody that's got dexterity, it can help take the weight off that light. But I'm kind of holding it against my body, and you just get it started like that. So the washer goes on top. So I want to point that out because I think I showed that wrong on the first one. So what we're doing is we're just assembling these so that when we get rolling with our lighting, we don't have to pause every light and put the stake on it. So that's it. So we're just going to assemble all 12 of these in this kit. The other thing that we're doing, because a lot of these bare wires are messed up in the box, is we're just going to go ahead and we're going to twist those wires so that they're in pretty good shape, and we're trying to set them on the truck bed where they don't get too messed up. They might get a little messed up before we get them, but we'll just come grab one every time we're ready to mount it. And so what our plan is going to be is to just finish this. Then we're going to go ahead and pick our location and just go ahead and put the stakes in the ground. That's, to me, the easiest way to do this, is to go ahead and actually stake these in the ground where I want them, and then I'll run my wire to them, and that's when we'll connect this wire to our main wire. So we're going to finish getting these 12 ready. Alright, so what we've done is we have our transformer mounted. It's not plugged in, but it's going to be plugged in here. We have our photo cell, which screwed into this right here, and we put one more screw in the brick to grab that wire. So that's going to tell us whether it's light or dark. It's going to tell this whether to turn on or not. So all we'll have to do when we're done is plug this in. So right now we're getting ready to run our wire. So what we've done, we have our wire rolled up right here. We're getting ready to bury it in the ground. I think the direction said no more than 6 inches, so we'll go less than that. And then you want to think about your landscaping where you wouldn't ruin your wire. So like, we're going to run it right along the house until we're going to run it right along the edge. This is our first light, and so what I'll do is I'll run it along the edge of the house to this corner, and then we'll make our way over to this light. And what we're going to do, since you kind of install these in the daylight with no power, can't really tell how it's going to look till it's dark. So we want to give ourselves a little room to move these. So we'll run our wire very close to the light so that if we want to move it either way, we have a little leeway here to move it. So what we did was we laid out our 12 lights. So we have one there to shine on that side of the window. We don't want one shining in the window at night. So we got that side of the window, this side of the window. This is going to get this corner of the house so it's not dark. And then we have this one aimed at this area. Now my thought process is I don't want people to be able to hide in my landscape. I want a light to be on them. I have motion lights also. This one will kind of shine on the address and everything. So then over in this area, we've only got 3. We got this big window. We don't want lights shining in the window. So we're gonna hit one on this side. This light will hit this side. And then I want this back corner lit up. I think about things like this, like where the garage goes around the corner. I want that lit up. So I've got this light aimed that way. The way I'm gonna route my cord right here is I have a gap in the concrete and I'm going to run my wire right in this gap right across here. So that's going to be easy, I hope. My garage didn't work out that way. This is not a gap. The way this concrete was poured, I can't bury a wire in there. There's no real gap there. So this one, I'm going to go up my gutter and I'm gonna hide it the best I can, coming through here, and then I'm gonna go above the door and go across the garage, and then I'm gonna probably go up here again and then down this gutter back down to here, and then I'll run it out this way. And then we've got 4 more lights out here. So we got a window there. So I'm going to put one here, one there, this one on this side of the window, and then this one over here. So basically 2 on either side of that window. And so that's our 12. We have 4 in this area, 3 in that area, and 5 over there. So that's how we spread it out for our yard. And so you got to kind of think about how you're going to run your wiring. So now that we have our lights in the ground, we're just going to bury our wire and start connecting the lights. Alright, so we have our wire coming down here, the side of our house. I had some extra rock. We laid it right up against the brick. It's all hidden. We poured some pebbles over it. We haven't done our spring freshen up of our landscape yet, so I'll be buying some mulch soon. But we just went ahead and laid the wire out from this corner to this light. You can see where it's coming out right here. So we just brushed away some mulch, laid the wire right under it, and then covered it back up. And so now we're getting ready to cover up to connect our first light. So this is the one that we showed you where we connected this already in the garage. Normally this wouldn't have been done yet. So what we have to do now, I'll grab this piece of wood because I'm gonna have to splice this wire along the way. So every time there's a light, I'm gonna have to splice a wire. So we have leeway to move this. We're gonna do it as close as we can, about 3 inches away from the base is where I'm gonna kind of aim to do this at. So I want to bury it a little bit, so I want to give myself a little bit of leeway. So I want this down on a flat surface, and my goal is to hit it in the middle with my blade. You can kind of feel it. You can kind of feel it when it gets in the right place. Let's see. I felt like I had it here. There we go. See, I'm going all the way through right there. So, all right. So I kind of got it separated right there. All right. So gonna have to figure out how to, I guess what I could do, since this is gonna be buried, I'll just kind of lift the red wire out of the shield and then lift the black wire out. Like that. And then we'll take these It doesn't say that it matters which one is which on here, so I don't believe you have to worry about which one each wire is going to. So I'm gonna put my red one in there right in the middle of where I did my splice. I'm gonna put this nut on there, and as I tighten the nut, it's gonna pierce the red wire to complete the connection from the main power, which is coming through this line. And then the way these attach, it's connecting the power to get to each light. So my red one is connected. And remember, we don't have the power on, we don't have it plugged in. So there's not any power in it right now. All right, so now I want to get my black one. See, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's a spike in there. There's a spike at the bottom, so that when you put your wire inside of there and then you tighten the nut down, it's piercing it and it's making the connection for you, so you don't have to splice the wire. Okay, so that's the first light. And so then what we're gonna do, always put your blade in on these knives. They're very dangerous if you leave them out. So then we're gonna bury this right here, right behind it. And then we'll move on to our next light. And you can tell that this came up just by me playing with that. So what I did was I'm not really burying this deep. I do the fresh mulch every year on top of my existing mulch. So we're gonna be adding to it soon. I don't really need it buried down in there too much. So that will give me some slack in there. If we come out here and we decide we don't like where it's at, we wanna move it a little bit, that gives us some leeway. So our first one is connected, and so we're just doing them all like that. We're just going to follow to our next one. So we'll just kind of lay out the wire straight. Like I'll have my wife just kind of hold the wire here, and then I'll use a little tool to brush the mulch in, and we'll bury the wire and then cover up the wire and hook it up, go from one light to the next. So we're going to keep doing that. All right, so we've got the black and red wire. We got them both sitting in the connector. So now we're just gonna pop these caps on and screw them down tight so that they'll pierce those. And we decided not to bury the wire as we go, because every time we did a light, we're pulling it back up through the mulch. So we're just kind of laying it out. Gonna do a section at a time and then bury it. So we did that size, that's our power side. Now on these small ones, we found these to be a little tricky. So we undo these to where they're just barely in there, just barely before they come out. And then we take this little wire and, you know, just really shove it. We find that these need to be pulled apart a little more. So we go ahead and pull about another inch. And put them all the way down in there till you feel it contact, and then you just kind of keep pressing down. If you have a helper, your helper can hold the wire in. Do it till it's tight and you can feel that it's connected. If not, the wire will just come right back out. So you can test each one of them as you go. So I'm gonna hold that in while I screw that down. Get it tight. It's connected. All right. So see, by the way, we're leaving a little bit of slack in this line. And then we have all this slack here. That'll give us room to move this around a little bit. So we've got 1, 2, 3 wired. We have 2 more in this section. We're gonna go ahead and get those done, and then we'll come back and bury these wires. All right, so we finished this first section, brought it up to the edge of the house, ran the cord right here, and then this was deep enough for us to sink the cord down even with the concrete. So we ran it around here, which is a lot easier than trying to go up and over a doorway or something. So then our power cord is here, buried it with these rocks, and then we just kind of run it. We kind of just dug out our mulch a little bit down to the weed barrier and threaded it right along where our lights are. And then we made our electrical connections. And so now we're gonna come back and just bury the mulch back over the wire. And so our next challenge is gonna be how we go over the garage door and come out the other side. So that's what we're gonna do now. So we'll update you after we get that figured out. All right, so when we got our cord, our power line buried over here, we just came up by this gutter, and these are like on Amazon, like cable management tabs. If I can find them, I'll put a link in the description, or you can find something similar. But basically they have a sticky back, and you pop your cord in this part here, and then I got them stuck to the side of the gutter. So we've got it coming up here. I've got one there, one at the top. I've got a couple on the soffit area, and then I've got the cord coming across above the garage door here, and then coming down this gutter right here. So that's how we went around our garage door. You could have went along the bottom and went in the under the door, did it all inside the house and come back, but I didn't want it getting hit by the garage door, so I didn't want it. So I just decided to stay on the outside. So then we got it buried right here, coming out this way, and then we have our trench. We don't have it covered up yet. We got all these lights connected. Then at the end, I just left myself another foot and cut it off, put electrical tape around the end, and we'll bury that. If I ever wanted to splice some more wire on the end for any reason, I could do that. So we're gonna go ahead and bury this now, and then this part will be done. All right, so I want to give you an update. Part of the reason of going through these things is learning and sharing with you not only the successes but the challenges that come up on projects like this. So yesterday we finished everything, all 12 lights with these whatever you call these that came with it, where you were to put the black and the red wire in these, put them in there, put the nut on, and it was supposed to pierce the wire with that piercing right there. And then you had the other 2 wires coming out of each light that were supposed to go on the top, and basically it's supposed to connect the wire from the light here to one of your power wires down here, same on the other side. Well, when it got dark last night, we were able to test everything. Out of 12 lights, only 4 of them were on, which means that 8 of them had some sort of connection that was not being made. So it would only take, one of the connections to not be made for them to not work. As we took these nuts off here, we found that the problem is that the spacing in here allows for the wire to be in there, and then as you put the nut down and you're supposed to force the wire into the piercing there, what would happen is the wire can go down beside it and not be pierced. So after trying that a few times, realizing it was kind of a lost cause to try and force that to work, on the 8 that are not working, we're gonna do those differently. So today we have come out and removed the 8 of these. I'm calling them like a wire nut, but it's probably got a different name. 8 of these we've taken out, and so what that leaves us behind on each of these 8 that wasn't working is now we're back down to our our black and red wires and these 2 wires that come out of the light. So what we're going to do now, what makes it challenging is, if this was just the end of a wire, I could just strip it and then connect it. But because the power has to be continuous, I'm using a wire stripper just to kind of give me a gap in this wire, and trying to get it where I can just get just a little bit of wire showing, so that I can kind of try to move the stripping out of the way. And then I'm going to end up taking this wire, one of them to the black, one of them to the red, and I'm going to make a direct, my power's off right now, I'm going to make a direct connection here, wrap this around, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to solder those wires together, and I'm going to put some electrical tape on them. So that's how I'm going to fix these. So I just want to let you know that I did have trouble. I did have trouble with these not working right, but this does work. So I tried it on one last night and it worked, and so it was very late. So I decided I'll come back and fix them today. So we're going to do that, and when we get the soldering out, we'll show you kind of each step of what we're doing. All right, so we're going to wrap one of these cords, say around this this black cord, one of them to the black like that. Power's off while we do this, of course. We're going to wrap that around there. And we're going to take this one and wrap it around the red. Doesn't matter which one goes to black, which one goes to red. We're just wanting to make direct contact with the wire. Okay. I'll spread those apart, and then I'm going to use a soldering gun and just kind of melt these together. Okay, and then I'll let those kind of cool just a little bit. Then I'll try to flip them over where I can get them from the underside, like that. Now kind of getting it from a different perspective helps if you can have someone else hold it. My wife's helping me on these, but I wanted her to record one for your benefit so you can kind of see what we're doing. Again, this is unfortunate that we're even having to do this. It would have been nice if the the plastic wire nuts they supplied. They were supposed to handle this, would have worked right. So now what we're going to do, we got that all the way done from both sides. I don't want them to touch, and we're going to let those cool off, and we're just going to continue doing all of them, and then I'll come back and we'll tape all these. So we'll come back and put electrical tape on each one before we bury them back in the ground. So we'll check back in with you. All right, so we did all our soldering on all 8 of the ones that weren't working last night. So we're coming back now, and we're taping over now that the soldering is cold. We're going to come back with our electrical tape, and we're wanting to accomplish a couple things. We're wanting to cover up all the solder, because it's basically the same as like a bare wire. And then what we'd also like to do is strengthen, the wire coming from this light. We're making it stronger as we tape it to the power wire. So that one kind of came in at kind of a 90-degree angle, so we kind of tape it like that. This one kind of came in on the side like that. So on this one, I can hold these wires together like that and get a good tape around it that way. So on that one, I'll just kind of tape it, since it kind of comes in parallel with it. Kind of start taping right here, so that, if these wires get yanked, I'm wanting to further strengthen the bond so that nothing comes undone. So the soldering is very strong, but I still don't want to let that wire get yanked without having some extra strength from this tape. All right, so that's what we're doing to all 8 of them now. Then we'll come back and we'll bury everything in the mulch, and then we'll be done. All right, so a couple of tips. The setting that I'm using is the one in the booklet that says it uses the photo cell to turn the lights on and off. So that means when it's dark, they'll turn on, and when it's light, they'll turn off. And then it has a cap on it where you can put the cap on so it thinks it's dark, and that can be used as your test mode to make the lights come on. So right now we have them on. We have all 12 lights working now that we soldered the wires and did more of a direct connection. So all the lights are working. I'm going to get another shot of it when it's totally dark, so that you can see more what the light looks like at night. These are LEDs, but I liked how it's the warm looking light instead of the bright white. So anyway, it did work with that direct connection that we showed you. And so I just wanted to let you know that all 12 lights work now. So we'll get one more shot when it's dark, and hope this video has been helpful. Check the links in the description for everything that I used. Okay, so at night, very pleased. Lighting up everything. And then in the front over this way, lighting that up well.